Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Dark Side mix for Produce Like a Pro. In this video I'm going to be covering all the music within the song, so all the instrumentation, and I like to start mixing the drums first, in particular the kick. Now in this particular song, as you can see, we have 4 kick tracks, not always playing at the same time, and one's intermittent here, and this is for effect. To enhance the arrangement. Now I don't treat when I have a situation like this, maybe 2 or plus tracks of one instrument, I generally don't treat them individually. I send them to a bus, which we have here, which is named kick. And before that I have what is called a VCA track. Okay, now you can't actually instantiate any plugins on this track. A VCA track, just to explain, I touched on it lightly in the last video. What it does, if you look at the faders on these 4 kick tracks, they're at different levels. Yeah, plus 2.6, plus 2, and as you can see here, different levels. So what I can do with a VCA track is these will all be grouped to this VCA fader. And they, in Studio One, which is the DAW that I'm using, they conveniently make it red so it stands out. Now if you watch these sliders closely, watch what happens when I move this red slider. Even the output changes, okay, because it's linked. Alright, so I'll take that back, and what this is doing, I generally don't change this very much, only if I want to automate volume for all the kick drums together, okay? But what it does help with is that if you saw the way they moved, they all stayed equal to each other as they were moving, so they're not moving at different increments. They're all staying at the same increment from each other, no matter where I move this, which is very handy. So there's plenty of DAWs that have these VCA faders out there, I believe, and they're very handy. So just for anyone, maybe the newer mixers of you out there, in case you're wondering what that is and what a VCA fader does. Right, onto the bus. So this is the way we're treating these tracks here. Now at the top I have the console shaper. I don't think I talked about it in the first video, so I'll quickly talk about it here and then we'll get on with things. So this is only available in Studio One 3, and I believe it was 3.2 that it came in, version 3.2. There is a newer version called the CTC1, which is excellent, but this is very good as well. And basically it does what it says. It emulates a console, and so you have crosstalk. You can turn it on. I've turned it on. If a blue light comes on, you know it's on. You can adjust to suit. Crosstalk is something that happens within an analog desk. From channel to channel you have electronics and heat, and that multiplies as it goes through, and there's little bits of a certain amount of tracks from one bus to another will creep in, and basically that's what crosstalk is. Noise I have switched off, but you can emulate some noise from an analog desk. And drive, which is the sort of thing really that combined probably with a crosstalk and incorporating some noise as well, is what gives an analog desk that sort of creamy, warm texture. Yeah, that's what has become so pleasing to our ears, especially those of us who listened to radio back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. We're used to that sound. So this is what this is trying to replicate. Okay, so I won't talk about that again, and I have the same settings on all of the buses. Okay, right, first of all I have this plug-in here, and we've got a little bit of an EQ going on, so let's have a quick look. Now I'm not going to talk too much. I'll talk through this And then for the rest of the video, I'm just going to go through all the settings that I've got, because you can work it out just by looking. If I talk all day, which I'm very capable of doing, then this video will last for hours, and that's not the intention. So, I don't think we've got a bell here. No bell. So we are boosting at 149 hertz, okay, by almost 3 dB. Here we're cutting some mud out at 441 hertz. Here we're slightly boosting at just under 2 kilohertz and nothing on the high end. Okay, and then I've got a compressor here. Not very strong compression going on here, because obviously we want things to build up, as I talked about in the last video. I've got ratio 3:1, threshold is 17.3, minus 17.3, slow attack because I want the transient to come through, and a fairly fast release because I want that snap back, and a little bit of makeup gain, and it's on 100% in the mix. Okay, on circuit 1 on this particular compressor, but these settings you can use on pretty much any compressor. Like I said, stock plugins are very good. I just happen to have this, but if you have your stock plugins, you can do the same job. You know, a lot of weight to the sound is done during the production phase. And mixing, like I say, is more about adding a gloss and a finesse to what is already a very well written and sounding song. So that's what that sounds like. Well, let's see what that sounds like actually. Let's switch this. Well, this is switched on already. I'll switch off the plugin behind. We'll quickly have a quick listen to it, and let's solo that up. Let's play. And before. And back in again. Okay, a bit more punch to help it cut through in the mix. And we will go on to the next plugin, which is the Transient Designer. Now this is a great little thing. Lots of different varieties of them out there. I believe there's some free ones as well. I just happen to have this one, and I'm pushing the attack slightly. So this is going to, in essence, boost the transients. Okay, so the initial attack of the sound. But what I'm doing here is I'm taking away some of the sustain, because again I want that sharp in and out sound. I don't want it to linger too long. Okay, because we've got lots going on here, and we've got these little bits that kind of play off the back of a hit, and so I want the initial hit to come out so I can hear these coming through as well, and for them to come in and go out very quickly. So without, first of all. Right, and then in. Just giving it a bit more attitude, and that will help it cut through the mix as well. Right, so that is the kicks. Right, I'm going to go through to the snares, and this time from now on I'm just going to go through the settings. I'm not going to talk very much, and we can get through this video a bit quicker. Okay, you know what the VCAs are, I won't talk about those anymore, and just have a look at what is on the settings. Again, 2 snares, bust to this bus here, and let's go from there. I'll solo up. Revival is basically, I suppose it's a harmonic enhancer, possibly you might want to call it that. a bit brightness added and a bit of low end added. Okay, that's what that does. And then let's have a look at these settings. Boost at 225, cut at 310, slight boost at 1.15 kilohertz, nothing on the high end. Very similar settings on the compressor, 3 to 1, minus 20, just over minus 20. Attack, slow attack, fast release, slight makeup. Let's listen in and out. Without, first of all. Right, okay, and with it in. Right, you can just see a bit more presence there, a little more thickness in the sound. Okay, so that's going to help it in the mix. We're going to move on now to the hi-hats. Again, hi-hats reporting to a bus. And in this case I have individually EQ'd, okay, because there's two different there's one hi-hat and hi-hat 2, and they're both different. I'll just bring the view up on the second one because it's very light. The second one is stereo, as you can see, and let's have a play individually. Okay, so this is the first one here. We'll get to a point where it starts. And out. Very little difference there, okay, but just to help clean up the low end there, we don't want anything creeping in there. And then on the second one, we'll solo that so you can see what's going on. Right, you can see there that there's a lot of low end in that piece of audio. So that's the kind of thing I don't want creeping into the mix, because it's only going to mess with the bass tracks, and that's not what we want. We need to separate anything that's going to cause any muddiness. Right, we've got an open hat here, which I'll solo. Again, these are individually EQ'd. Again, just a little bit of low end creeping through, very subtle, but again, just cleaning it up. Right, okay, and I think it might be a ride cymbal here. Let's have a quick look. Okay, again, just cleaning things up. little frequency there that I didn't like too much. Onto, we've got a crash cymbal here. Okay, so you could hear there that there was a bit of low end creeping in there, and again, that's why we're high passing here. Right, that is the drums out of the way. So, we will move on to the percussion. That's the next one up. And we'll just bring that in there. And these again have been done individually. They're not actually reporting to a separate bus, they're just going to the main percussion bus in this instance, okay? So I'll solo that up and let's have a quick listen. And without. Okay, so again, just a little bit of low end creeping there, making sure that stays out of the way. And we'll move on to the next track. This one here. Bring up the EQ. As you can notice, just high passing, a lot of them, because they've been well produced. Okay, they've been worked on well in production, so I don't have to do a huge amount when it comes to the final mix. And this is what I was talking about earlier in the last video about how important production is and getting it right in production, so that you don't have to alter it drastically in a mix, because that really shouldn't be what you're doing with a mix. Right, okay. This one. And without. And again, as you could see, there was some low end creeping there. So just basic moves, nice and gentle, nothing too drastic. Right, and again, another high pass filter. Right, okay, lots of low end there. Now, it probably sounds like not very nice compared to when you hear the full thing, but that's because it's soloed. But in the context of a mix, it fits in really well, because obviously the low end is taking its place, and this is taking its place, otherwise it probably wouldn't be heard. Or certainly not very well, and it would add a lot of mud to the mix. So again, high pass, use your ears, and have the rest of the mix playing while you're doing that. Okay, I'm just doing this, I'm showing this so that you can see the sort of settings that I'm doing and how simple the moves are. I'm not doing anything drastic. Right, okay, so we're going to move into the next set of nothing going to these cymbals, but because I have a template, I set this up just in case I want to have something going to the cymbals. So after the percussion, we'll leave the vocals till last. We will go to the bass next. Okay, so now we have 5 bass tracks. Okay, and some of them playing at the same time with other tracks. In fact, all of them play at some point in time with another track. So when it comes to something like this, this is where your mixing skills really come in, because you've got to be able to make them fit. But also a lot of it is down to production. You know, you want in production, you want to make sure that the sounds are right there. It's no use just putting any old sound down and then thinking that you can fix that in the mix, because that is not how it should be done, and you're going to have a nasty surprise when it comes to doing it, because you're going to give yourself a load of hard work, and that's not what mixing is about. It should be fun. Whether you're an amateur, pro, it doesn't matter. It should be fun. You should be enjoying yourself, not giving yourself a hard time. So, we'll start off with this first track here, and we will just look at now again. Everything is being focused, processed on their own channel and reporting to this bus here. Okay, because of the nature of them all being quite different, this is the way I wanted to deal with it. If everything is the same, like a kick drum, then I can send it to its own bus. But when they're different tracks and they're competing with each other, then you must actually go in to the track and deal with it that way. Okay, right, okay, so we'll start off with this Pro EQ. By the way, this is an EQ that comes indigenous to Studio One, and it's a very good plug-in. Comes free with, and this is what I was talking about in the last video. Don't be afraid to use the plugins that come free with your DAW. They are good. Don't be afraid to use them. Right, now this, I've got a few curves going on here. Okay, and this one here kind of resembles the sort of thing you might see in an analog EQ, the way it smoothly pulls up and then drops off. Okay, you tend to get quite wide slopes with analog EQ sounds, which is what gives them that sort of creamy warmth. Right, okay, we'll solo this channel up. I'll get rid of the compressor there, and I'll get rid of this, and we'll listen with and without first, and then with, and listen to the difference. Right, you know, that hook for the song, and then with the EQ enacted. You see the difference, you hear the thickness of that coming through, taking out a lot of mud there, and just a little bit of low end taken off there, but I wanted to keep quite a lot of fullness in there, and I also wanted it to come through, so a little bit of boost at 5k. Okay, so we will move on to the next plugin, which is the limiter here. Okay, and we'll go without and then bring it in. Okay, so let's go again. And in. There you go. Okay, so makes it a bit warmer. On to the next track. Solo it up, and let's find a part where it's playing. And now this one is competing with this. So let's have we'll take them both out. EQ again, something similar, except this one's a bit of a sharper cut here. Okay, this was the annoying frequency. Again, you look where I cut to get rid of mud. It's invariably going to be somewhere between 3 and 500 hertz normally. Sometimes it'll be other places, just annoying frequencies, but for mud, this is quite a lot of time is going to be in this sort of area. Okay, so let's listen to it without the EQ. Now you can hear that that is a kind of, if you know anything about the blues and the question and answer technique that was incorporated within the blues and became so popular in rock and jazz and other genres of music, this is what we're doing here. We've got it's slightly different key, same hook line, okay, and I've EQ'd it appropriately. I'll bring the EQ in. Right, okay, and we'll bring the without the limiter. In fact, you know what it sounds like without the limiter. We'll just bring the limiter in, and let's have a listen. Okay, just take a note of the settings I've used. Okay, full on mix. Right, set 5 there, and this is the release. So think of this as the attack, this limit level here, and think of this as the release. Okay, not too fast release, because I want the atmosphere to come through. There's a bit of atmosphere within that bass line. Right, okay, on to the next bass line. Solo it up, take out the things. This one, as you can see, I'm just taking out frequencies that I didn't like. I haven't done any boosting because I didn't feel I needed it. So let's play first without and then bring it in. Right, as you can hear, it's a very short staccato kind of tremolo bass line. Let's bring in the EQ. Right, and let's bring in the compressor after it. Now if you look at these settings, we've got that's for gain reduction, so bringing up about 3. Okay, we've got a medium attack, and we've got a fast release. Now I've got a fast release for the very reason that this is a very staccato kind of jittery sort of bass line. Okay, and I want the attack to come in fairly quick, fairly fully, but I want it to the end of that attack to disappear fairly quickly, so that it allows the next one to come in, and that's why I have a fast release time. On the full mix, let's have a listen with the compressor in. Okay, and one more time without it. You can see how flabby that sounds compared to this. Okay, so that's that bass track there. Solo the next one up. And again, this one just taking out a bit of mud, high passing slightly, and that is all I'm doing. All the rest of the work was done in the production phase, which is a very good idea of how to work. So without, and then we'll bring it in. Very similar to the bass line above. Okay, and this is to add, before I play this with the EQ in, a little trick. If you want, for outros to songs, you want to add a bit more thickness, a bit more energy, which is always a good trick to use in arrangement for a song, to build it up to the height of the end of a song. Just add something that maybe is backing up something else, so you get that energy, and it really has a good effect. Just taking a bit of mud out here. Right, okay, so that's that there, and let's bring in this, and I don't think this is doing too much, just a little bit of gain reduction. Again, it's just we've got a fairly fast release on there, so again, just making it come through in the mix, not being too flabby. And back in. Great. Right, okay, on to the next and final bass track. Okay, this one, heaps of low end, okay, heaps of it, and again, putting out some mud, just there. Now, this is competing with this here, and I really wanted this to come out in some way, and the best way for it to come out was to give it some girth, some low end rumble, and that's exactly the effect it's got with this. Okay, so let's have a quick listen without first of all, and then with. You can feel it's a sort of bass that will go through you if you're at a club or standing next to some big speakers somewhere. It's going to resonate through your body. Okay, so that's exactly what I was looking for with that. And then standard stock compressor. Look at the settings, nothing too drastic. Fairly slow attack. And a fairly slow release as well, because I don't want this cutting out quickly, because it's got the vibe about it and it's got some atmosphere about it, and I don't want to cut that out, so that's why I've got a slow release on it. Let's have a listen with it in. You hear that attack, it really hits, yeah. That's why I've got a slow attack time, otherwise I'd choke it if the attack was fast. Right, one more time without. And then in. Okay, a bit of gain reduction going on there, but we've added just over 2.5 dB in gain. Right, okay, so we've got the bass out of the way. Now the synths, quite a lot of synth tracks. There's not a huge amount going on. I'll talk about this here, but these I'm just going to go through them, not talk, and you can see for yourself what I'm doing. All right. Right, okay. I'm using a stereo widener here, okay, Not very much, but what I want to do, because I've got 3 different bass tracks playing here, and this one isn't particularly low because I've taken quite a lot of low end rumble out of this for it to fit in, is that obviously I want this is the height at the end, this is to add excitement to the finale of the song, and of course I've got to help it fit in. So what I've done, I've added this wide. I've not put it too wide because I don't want it to compete with other elements of there's a lot going on at the end of this song, but I want it to stay out of the way of the centre, and these two are panned central. Okay, so that's why I've done this, and let's have a listen without and then in. Right, okay. So that's that. 7th track out of the way. Sorry, I said these are bass tracks. They're not, of course, they're synth tracks. But again, it's the height, and I wanted to keep them out of the way of that one. Okay. Usually, I wouldn't put a stereo widener on a bass track. Right. Okay. So we'll solo this up. This is down the centre again. As you can see, most of them are, but it's because of the way they've been produced, and also the way I've mixed the song. And also, if just one thing before I carry on, if you're taking music to a club, for instance, a lot of the time they will have big mono systems there, big mono speakers. So if your music is panned quite a lot down the middle, and if it can collapse to mono well, then you're going to do well at the club. If it's too wide and all over the place, you'll probably lose quite a lot of it. Only the elements that are strong down the centre will work. Okay, so that's a little thing to keep mind of. Right, okay, let's take that out and play first like that. So we'll bring that to the beginning there. Right, okay, and again I have a stereo image here. This one's a wider stereo image to it. Okay, again I want this to fit in the mix, so this is why I do this. Okay, instead of panning it one way, I do it like this so that it can stay down the centre but fit into. You'll hear it in your headphones, both left side, if that's what you listen to on, as the majority of people seem to do these days, or if you've got your stereo monitors, you'll hear it out of both speakers this way as well. Okay, and let's play with it out and then in. Right, and now in. And that's going to fit in the mix very well. Okay, on to the next synth track. This one's only got an EQ in it, so without. And in. Okay. Right, on to the next track. Solo it up. Actually widen this up a bit so that we can get this in. And with the EQ in, just taking some of the mud out there, low end, and compressor, slow attack, fairly medium release, not too fast, because I want the echoes to come through. Okay, and we'll play with it in. Okay. This one hasn't got anything on it, so I'll just play it quickly. It's an effect. And this one is just EQ'd. And in. A lot lighter there, you can hear that. Okay, I'll just show you the graphic. Go back. See that low end down there. And with it in, just cutting that so it doesn't add any mud to the mix. Lots of simple things, you see that I'm doing, lots of simple things, nothing too drastic. Everything's got to be able to work together. Right, vocals. Now this is the main vocal. And this vocal has a delay going on it as well. Okay, and excuse me, I've got a heavy flu at the moment, so my nose is giving me a few problems. So hopefully I come across okay in these two videos. Forgive me if I don't. I start off with this. Now you might be wondering what this is. And this is the track here. It's a mono track. And this is associated with it. This is the delay. We won't concentrate on that, but we are going to concentrate on this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a bit more so that you can get an idea of what it looks like. And let's do that so you can see. Now you see all these curved lines. This is actually automation written in by this plugin here. Okay, it's called a vocal rider. And what it's doing, it enables me not to have to work too much on the actual fader of this channel. Okay, and it works in conjunction so that I can concentrate more on the creative side of things. Okay, it's a great little plugin this, and the way it works in Studio One anyway, I'll give you a quick lowdown on how it actually works. This up here is pretty much the amount of sensitivity that you want this fader to have when it reads the audio. Okay, that's full on for vocal because that's what we're working with, and 0 for music. This tells you when it's riding and when it's idle, as it is at the moment. If it goes red, you're going in too hot, so try to avoid that if at all possible. And then this is basically, if you want it to ride up and down fast, it can, or if you want it to go slow, which in this case I do, I've got it on the slow setting. Now in Studio One, to get this to work on its own channel, as I have here, I would left click on this fader button. Okay, and then up in the top left hand corner you see a little hand, and if I was to press on this now, watch what it says next to that hand. Okay, there, rider fader. Okay, which is what this is here. Okay, so then I'll grab the hand and I'll bring it down here, and that instantiates a track where I can actually see what this fader is reading. Now you can set a limit as to how far up and how far down this fader will go. Okay, and I've set that limit here, so +5, -5. Okay, you have an output slider here to adjust for gain, and when you are actually tracking, you'll have it on write, so it can actually write in. And when you've finished, you'll click on read and set it here as well as read, so that this fader can actually read the timeline, okay, and act accordingly. So that's the explanation about this plugin and what it does. Let's see it in action. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the vocal rider only, okay, and I'll turn off the delay as well.
Thought you were the last piece to complete this task. I built all this.
Right, okay. And you could see it in action there, the way it was moving. Okay, so that's actually what it does. And you could probably hear a few breaths and stuff in between. Now, I know some people like to take those out. I like to leave it in because it all adds to the atmosphere of the mix, in my opinion. I don't mind I don't mind mistakes. I don't mind little noises in the background. I think as long as they're not interfering with the overall mix, then it's great. It adds a bit of grit to it, and that is what music's all about. That's rock and roll, yeah, in a nutshell. It's not about absolute perfection. It's about getting out there and doing it. Okay, so on to the next plugin. We've got an EQ here, just taking out some low end and a couple of frequencies that I didn't like. Okay, so let's see without and then in.
Thought you were the last piece.
Right, and within.
Thought you were the last piece.
Just taking out some of that low end that you could see there. Okay. And then this is quite possibly one of the best compressor plugins there is and has ever been, in my opinion. I absolutely love it to death. I know I haven't got it over everywhere because it does have a little bit, it seems to have a little bit of a CPU hit, at least on my system. My system's quite old actually, it's getting on, it's about 8 years old. So I've had it for a good while. As you can see, I'm still with Windows 7. And but I just love what this plugin does. We have 3 different plugins in one. I'm not going to give you a tutorial on this plugin, but it's great. If it's not expensive, and it hands down is equally as good as the very expensive plugins out there, and this is cheap as chips when you look at the prices of some other stuff out there. It is the Swiss Army knife of plugins. So enough glowing reports on this. Let's see what we're doing. We've got minus 21.5 threshold, ratio 4:1. I don't know what this does iStage, but I like it, so that's why I've got it on. You just press the button and it comes on. Fairly slow attack, fast release. No makeup going here, but these 2 buttons here, if you switch them on, they actually help in be able to look ahead for makeup gain, or that's what I've been led to believe. Down here is a great little area. You can add to the timbre, darkness or hi-fi. Adding drive is a fantastic thing here. It really makes a difference. Here you can use you've got a side chain here if you need, and dry wet button for parallel processing if you so wish to use it like that. Okay, let's listen without and then in.
Thought you were the last piece.
Right, and let's bring it in.
Thought you were the last piece.
See about 1.5 decibels of gain reduction there, more or less, and you can change that, I believe, yeah, just by pressing there you can, I always like to leave it on gain reduction. And onto the next plugin, and this is a de-esser. Get myself tongue-tied there. Now, the way to use this is to use the sidechain. Others may be different, but in general I think they're pretty similar. Put it on that and then scoop around the frequencies while you're listening, and then find the naughty frequencies that are giving all those s and t sounds, and then go back to audio, and then you can maybe bring these down beforehand just to get an idea, and then adjust. Now this is, I've used quite a heavy setting here, but I felt I needed to. So without and then in.
Thought you were the last piece.
That was in and without.
Thought you were the last piece.
You see that S at the end. Yeah, okay. Let's listen to it with it in.
Thought you were the last piece.
See the way it ducks there when it comes to that? That can save a mix. Okay, that alone. So it's well worth getting to know how to use a de-esser. Warren's got a great video somewhere, I know, on Produce Like a Pro, explaining how to use a de-esser, so I highly suggest you watch that, as well as all his other videos. Right, okay. We're going to bring the delay in here, and we're going to see what's going on. So, first of all, the delay. It's a stock delay. I've got it tuned to fourths in a ping pong. Okay, I've cut the lows to 138 hertz and the high to just over 8 kilohertz. And let's have a listen to it in, because we know what it sounds like without it.
Thought you were the last piece.
Now, we're going to keep this in. Actually, no, we'll bring this in. Okay, now, I'm going to take off the high pass here, and I want you to look at this low end. Okay, now, remember, I high passed here to 138 hertz, and this is why you should never always entirely go by what you see with a plugin that has a high pass filter on it. Always use an EQ afterwards, because you could save yourself some potential, not too much of a problem, but you watch, have a look at this EQ. Alright, I'm going to take it out, just watch the low end here. Now 138 hertz is round about here, okay, round about there.
Thought you were the last piece.
You see that low end creeping in there. Okay, that's below 138 hertz. So with this, I can make sure that I eradicate that.
Thought you were the last piece.
And I'm keeping out of the way of the low end. And again, I've got same settings, pretty similar as on the actual track itself.
Thought you were the last piece.
Very little, just did it for that S at the end that you could see there. Okay, so that is the lead vocal. Now onto here. Now I will unashamedly admit that I nicked this from my mate Warren Hewitt, who I knew about this kind of technique before, and you can do this without these plugins. You can do it in Studio One. They have some settings. You could probably do it in your DAW choice, but these are very convenient. And thanks, Warren, very much for teaching us all about this little trick here. It's come in very handy. So these are doublers. And if you've seen the video, I'm sure you have, +3, -3, and it goes in increments of 3. And what you do, you take out the direct signal, and you'll go +3, -3, and then up here -6 and +6, then +9, -9, and then -12, +12. So you're going sort of yin and yang, plus and minus. Otherwise, it will all be on one side sharp and on one side flat, and you want it to have an even balance. Okay, so that is what they're all about. Let's listen to what we've got on the. They're all reporting to a bus, and they're all at unity gain. Okay, so again, we have a vocal rider. So let's see what the vocal rider is doing. We'll bring it in. Now, where are we here? Let's do that. Okay, let's play.
Thought you were the last piece.
Okay, so we're just riding the vocal there a bit. Okay, and not sure whether, I think that might be the rider for it there, possibly, not sure. Anyway, on to the next plugin. We've got my favourite compressor here, or one of them. Have a look at the settings. Okay, and let's listen to it in.
Thought you were the last piece.
Okay, and at the ESSA, just take away the sibilants. Have a look at the settings again.
Thought you were the last piece.
Okay, just smoothing it out, taking away the sibilants, and you can hear the effect that the doublers are having as well, and that will add some thickness to the vocal within the mix. Right, okay. This is right, this is a vocal rider there. Okay, so let's have a look at this.
Thought you were the last piece.
Okay. And then we have a micro shift, which does a similar sort of thing to the doublers. Okay. Let's have a listen to without and then in. Like this is it here.
You've turned to the dark side.
Now, the reason I wanted to sound like that is because I wanted to have an effect. Okay. I wanted it to come in and stand out because it's quite an important phrase within the song, and it's just a quote that comes up, a little line that comes up a few times within the song. So because of that, I did want it to kind of stand out. So if I bring all of those out and play, listen to the difference.
You've turned to the dark side.
Now, yeah, it's okay, but it's pretty flat, it's uninspiring as such. But when I bring all of this in, it gives it some substance, and especially within the mix.
You've turned to the dark side.
Okay, so they're the sorts of decisions you have to make sometimes within the context of a mix. And fortunately, I'm sort of, even though I play the mixes, of course, back to the my bandmates once I've finished, and they'll comment on it. Usually, they allow me the scope to do things that I think need to be done. Okay, and we're very democratic in that way. And if you get to work like that, you're lucky, because it doesn't always happen. So on this track here, let's solo this one up, and we're going to have a look to see where this one is. Let's have a look. Right, seems to have disappeared. Oh, there it is. Right, okay. Right, okay. Vocal rider on there, and an EQ as well. Hold that there, and an EQ here, just high passing. Okay, and this is what it sounds like.
You've turned to the dark side.
Okay, so you could see both of those in action there. Now, this next section here, these four, I've labelled them extra vocals. They're these ones here. Okay, and what David's done is that we'd been working on it, and I wanted him to sing at different frequencies just to make it interesting here, yeah, because he sang at the same sort of velocity and tone, then it's pretty flat. And I could go in and I could just notch one of them down a tone or two and raise one a tone or two, but I wanted him to do it because it's more natural that way. So let's have a quick listen to it as it is, and then we'll go through what's been done. So everything's processed on this bus here, and let's go back to beginning there.
You turn to the dark side.
And let's listen in solo.
You turn to the dark side.
Okay, and we'll bring them out and we'll go one at a time. So we just got a bit of high pass and some frequency I didn't like there. Okay, let's bring that in.
You've turned to the dark side.
And you can hear the way he's got those different takes working together there. And again, that's another production thing. Great way to do it. Don't just take one take and then duplicate because it sounds a bit flat. Get different takes. This lovely compressor again. Have a look at the settings. I'll switch it on.
Turn to the dark side. You've turned to the dark side.
Okay, so, and the ESSA, just taking away some sibilants.
You've turned to the dark side.
And an EQ, fairly drastic amount of EQ, but remember that EQ is also a gain changer. You know, you boost EQ, you're boosting gain. You cut EQ, you're cutting gain. Okay, so it's not just about frequencies. In this case, it's about frequencies, obviously, with an EQ, but it's also about taking some of that muddiness out and also taking some of the gain down, so that it just sort of complements the lead vocal. Okay, let's have that in and listen.
You've turned to the dark side.
Now, it sounds very quiet and uninspiring there, but in the context of the mix, it will be great. And it is great. Right, okay. That is, as I say, all that done. That is all the channels looked at now. The only thing that we've got left to do is to look at this post part here, okay? So I'll go one at a time. Let's start here, okay? And I'll bring in this plugin, or this suite by Isotope, And again, right, okay, so got maximizer here, which is basically a limiter, just 0.3, so nothing's going to go above that as such, although it does clip a little bit, but within Studio One it handles that kind of stuff very well, almost like an analog desk would, so that's a handy thing to know if you're using Studio One. IRC2, that sounds very good to my ears, so I like that. Have a look at the rest of the settings I've got. This is a little trick I learned. I can't remember which producer I learned it from to save my life, but it it works. It's a really good effect. Basically, what I was told was that I'll play the mix, and then I'll switch between these two here, the low mids and the high mids. Okay, and I want you to watch the amount of gain reduction we got coming in. Okay, we'll start the low mids.
I was right on track. And then I met you. Thought you were the last piece.
Right, as you could see, it was getting up to about 2.5 at points. Okay, depending on what audio was coming through. Can even see a bit of a noise floor coming through. Now, I learnt that if you boost compression in these areas here, it gives more of a sheen, gives it a bit more of that professional sort of outlook to it. Okay, so using a multi-band compressor as these are here, which is great. Now, another thing I've done, if you remember back to the last video, I've collapsed everything to mono from 160 hertz downwards, so that's why I've set this to 160 hertz, so it corresponds with that. Otherwise, if I set that to something else, I'd like to keep things uncomplicated. Okay, so that's the compressor. Then we've got a harmonic exciter, so I'll play without and then I'll bring it in and you'll hear the difference.
I was right on track.
And I'm going to bring it in. Again, it's a multi-band one.
I was right on track.
And again, not being very subtle with it, not pushing it hard at all, just enhancing the sound slightly. Okay. Onto stereo imaging, I'll bring that in. Let's have a listen.
And then I met you.
Just widening it in the upper mids and the highs. Okay. And then I'm doing a bit of just taking a bit of mud out of the middle here. Okay, so before and then after.
And then I met you. Thought you were the last piece.
And just boosting the lows and the high slightly, giving it a slightly more hi-fi type of effect. And that is all that is going on there. They're going into an L2, okay, no differing going on. And let's put it in and see the difference it's making, just making it a bit louder and catching any peaks.
Thought you were the last piece to complete this task.
Right, okay, last but not least, now this is what I was talking about earlier in the first video, this particular plugin where I don't want to really go anywhere, probably not below -10 and not any higher than -12 really, if I could help it. and for the reasons that I stated in the first video. Let's have a look.
Thought you were the last piece to complete this task.
Right, okay, so you've seen how I've mixed this song from our first album release, okay, and this is The Dark Side, song called The Dark Side, and it is from the album released by Fighting This Monster, entitled A Darker Ambition. Okay, and it is released on, it's already been released, I should say, on all good digital outlets, so iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, and such like, Bandcamp also. So if you want to check those guys out, if you want to check the band out, please do. We'd love to have you comment about these videos and also about the mix. And please visit our website and ask any questions you want at all. Thank you very much for watching. I thank Warren as well for allowing me to put these videos up on his wonderful channel, and I will see you around soon. Take care.